A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
We're back with Christian commentator Greg Bondar. He's just back from Fiji this time. Gets to travel the world. Greg Bondar is national spokesperson for Christian Voice Australia, and all the travel comes with his other hat, Every Home for Christ. He's the leader of that in Australia. Greg Bondar, a special welcome back to 2020.
Good morning, Neil. Delighted to be here as usual. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, there's a bunch of things we want to talk about today. One of them, though, I've got to say, Greg Bondar, you were right. Global Anglicanism has officially split in two. Last time we were talking, you were lamenting the fact that there was a new Archbishop of Canterbury and she stood for all the wrong things. This is a major split and it's all confirmed. What are you understanding what's been happening with global Anglicanism?
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Look, as I predicted or prophesied, I guess, if I want to be biblical about it. What's happened, Neil, really is that the GAFCON movement of the Orthodox Anglicans, it's forging its own path, Neil, and they've now launched what's called the Global Anglican Communion. What they're saying is that they haven't left the Anglican Communion, but they are the new Anglican Communion. So it's a bit confusing, but let me just say, what they're saying is that the Most Reverend Laurent Bondar, chairman of the GAFCON's Primate Council, has said, we're going to start our own communion. We do not recognise the Archbishop of Canterbury. We don't recognise the Lambeth Conference. We don't recognise the Anglican Consultative Council. And they have, because they have consistently failed to uphold biblical truth now.
I'm reading about it thinking reordering of global Anglicanism. And, as you say, we might all be entertaining that thought, who is splitting from who here? And the recognition of an archbishop, you might assume that's the archbishop that unites all Anglicans together. Well, this new archbishop clearly does not. So this reordering, there's all sorts of complications, no doubt. It's not just a theoretical thing, is it, here? Because I'm assuming that Anglicanism, as it's split around the world, there must be all sorts of property issues and all sorts of things associated with that. It can't be a tidy process, can it?
Be a lot of corporate governance issues point of what's happening, Neil. And this is the good, that the new action will now rest on a single foundation. You ready, Neil?
Yep, breaking up just a little bit here, so say this slowly. Say this slowly. We don't want to miss what you're saying.
Yeah, so that the new, Neil, will on a single foundation, the Holy Bible. Got to be a good thing, Neil, because, the fact is that the current Archbishop is going to further divide the Anglicanism. It's going to cause a lot of problems, and you can't get away from biblical truth, Neil.
Okay, now I'm starting to see this in a different light. Because the way you frame that, and for listeners who might have missed that, I'm sorry that was just that link just dropping in and out a little bit there, but you're saying the Anglican movement now has only a single foundation, and that is the Holy Bible. That is something that I think we've all been expectant of, and we hoped that we wouldn't have all sorts of violent tearing in two. But this is actually probably good news, where you've got a church movement that says the Holy Bible is our foundation here.
Yeah, absolutely. There are three issues for us as Christians, Neil. One is we cannot compromise on Scripture. Two, we need to make sure that the church reforms according to biblical truth. And three, we have to recognise the centrality of Scripture. In other words, only true basis of communion is the Bible, Neil. That's got to be a good thing, and we've got to make sure we stick to that. Otherwise, we're really going into the realm of wokeism, and we're trying to please man rather than God, and that's just not on, Neil.
Just quickly, and just affirming, you're not a spokesperson for the Anglican movement here in Australia, but I'm just getting your impressions because you've been a loyal Anglican for a long, long time now. Here in Australia, there's already been a split. How are Anglicans here reacting to what's happened in the UK that's come into your sphere of influence?
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I'm not a spokesperson for the Anglican. I am an Anglican myself, although that's under reconsideration if this Archbishop of Canterbury keeps up the rhetoric that she's on about. The point is that I've got to congratulate the Sydney Anglicans. They came out with a statement a few days after the announcement, and they have said that this is not a good thing for Anglicanism, and they've taken the appropriate steps to make sure that they do not, approve of what the new Archbishop of Canterbury is saying. So I've got to congratulate the Sydney Anglican Diocese. So well done there. But quite frankly, Neil, this is going to cause a lot of problems, and we have to make sure that we stick with biblical truth and nothing else.
And Anglicans here in Australia, no doubt, this is dinner table, water cooler conversation about, just how Australian Anglicans are responding to what's happened in England. Hey, there's plenty on the agenda. Let's go to a different direction here. A bill to ban sex-selective abortions in New South Wales. You've been monitoring this along, and it's a big day actually tomorrow coming.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. Not only that, I met with the mover of this bill. It's John Ruddock, as you know. You'd know him well, Neil. John has been to a number of our events, and John will be introducing this new bill on the 22nd of October, tomorrow, John Ruddock, and it's about banning sex-selective abortions. Now, this is a real issue, Neil, because, we've been arguing about this for years, but you will recall back in 2019, the New South Wales State Parliament decriminalised abortion, and Tanya Davis, the MP for Mulgoa at the time, tried to prohibit sex-selective abortion, but she failed. And it's now going to be reintroduced by John Ruddock. The issue here, Neil, is that there are too many people that are using this particular abortion to determine the sex of their future children. And unfortunately, Neil, this is not a good thing, and it goes, in my view, against the truth.
Okay, how, when we understand these things, we're always looking for some evidence and some research that's gone on before, just to show where Australians might be at. And I think you've got some research there from New South Wales, looking at some of these abortions and choices that parents make.
Yeah, I do actually. Nearly back in 2020, New South Wales Health had a report called the Review of Termination of Pregnancy for the Purpose of Sex Selection. And guess what they found? There's not a lot of these being reported. Well, hang on. If there's not a lot being reported, that means that there are some being reported. And that in itself is a problem, because sex-selective abortion in New South Wales, it goes against New South Wales health regulations. Therefore, there are no penalties, no enforcements. So they're contradicting themselves. And not only that, Neil, we've got to understand that that sex selection is used quite a lot by families who prefer a male to a female. This is wrong, Neil. It's absolutely unbiblical. It's untrue. And the government has to do something about it. So I congratulate MP John Ruddock for putting this bill up. And don't forget, there's still time to do a survey if they go to the New South Wales Parliament to make a comment on this, which the survey closes on the 30th of October, Neil.
One of those issues, when there is a law but no one ever looks to enforce it, the law is meaningless and people do what they want, and then you've got a relativism that seems to creep in here. And listeners might want to just follow on that and find out what's going on. Hey, another one that's becoming now more popular to talk about, and that is castle law. You've got a petition going to let homeowners stand up to the thought that they might like to defend themselves. What are you trying to do here?
Yeah, this is castle law again. Look, I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, but this is John Ruddock again putting forward a motion. And don't forget, this is the 30th of October. A petition that I was talking about earlier. My apology, I've confused it with the abortion. But the problem here is that, Neil, does a person have the right to defend their home in case of an invasion or whatever else it might be. And John Ruddock is saying, and rightly so, that people ought to be able to defend their own home. And there are a number of cases, Neil, numerous cases in the media where people have been invaded. In particularly in Melbourne, one particular woman was dead. A farmer in New South Wales, I think, had his gun confiscated because he tried to defend himself. Now, we have to make sure that we can protect our own property. And I'm not advocating murder here or anything else. I'm talking about protecting our properties, Neil, protecting our rights as homeowners. Whether you're a single mother, a single father, or an elderly person, we have to make sure we can protect ourselves, Neil. So I commend this Castle's law, which will be put forward very shortly.
And no doubt you've got to have some conditions in all of that. Otherwise, you've got excuses for all sorts of very bad behaviour. But where you have those who feel as though the justice system is stacked against the victims when they're a victim of a home invasion, they're not allowed to defend themselves. That's what castle law is all about. And for listeners, I think that was the petition you were talking about a little earlier.
Yes.
Hey, just quickly. Religious discrimination bill, the Australian Attorney General's Department has replied to a submission that you put in a few months ago. That's not it's not a quick turnaround there, but what's in the reply?
Now, Neil, I have to tell you, there's one thing about the current Albanese government is they don't work too quickly. I put in a submission some 3 months ago, and I wrote to them saying, look, what is happening to the religious discrimination bill? Now, Neil, you and I have had numerous discussions. Other people have had discussions. Nothing happened. Do you know, one of the things I have to tell you, you're going to say I'm anti-Labor, but you're probably right, Neil. The point is that they are contradicting themselves time after time. They're saying here in the letter that they've sent me from the Attorney General's Department, which I received on the 3rd of October, 3 months after my original revision there, that says this, Neil. Government also believes that nobody should experience discrimination or vilification. Neil, really? Well, what have they done about the fact to try and curb anti-Semitism? Hamas was recognised as as a Palestinian state. Neil, they are so contradictory in what they're saying, and yet they're saying, oh, we believe that no one should experience discrimination or vilification. Neil, it is absolutely nonsensical when it comes to this, so I'm really disappointed that they've done nothing. And finally, Neil, they're saying that they will only proceed if there is, dual party support for the bill. Now, please, why don't they be proactive and just do something?
Yes, and there's also the argument it may be better if they do nothing. But yes, there is the voice that is growing in the background, saying there needs to be something in legislation somewhere that guarantees religious freedom. That's all still lots more to talk about. And, while there's not a lot of action, there's still a lot of talk that has to be had about that, because somewhere down the track someone's going to do something, and it ought not to be detrimental to the Christian church. And and that's what these things typically look like. Hey, Greg, exactly. I'll point listeners to where they might find some more details about the sorts of things we're talking about today. ChristianVoiceAustralia.com.au, and it's one of the hats that Greg Bondar wears. The other hat he wears is for everyhomeforchrist.org.au, and a marvellous organisation, global and tremendously active in so many dimensions around the world. And Greg, you've been doing a lot of travelling, wearing that hat and speaking to leaders all over the world. And so God's special blessing and favour on you as you continue your good work there. So those two websites for listeners to connect with Greg Bondar, who's national spokesperson for Christian Voice Australia, and he's the national leader here in Australia for Every Home for Christ. Greg, thanks so much for another great update today on 2020.
Thank you, Neil. Delighted to be with you. And tomorrow, don't forget, we've got our national prayer breakfast at New South Wales Parliament House. So there's a lot happening there. So I'll report back in due course. God bless you.
And just quickly, not letting that go by, you've got a lineup of speakers, like a who's who. This is not just a little gathering for some bacon and eggs. This is a very significant event. It's celebrating 50 years, and you've got a really big lineup. I suppose it's too late for people to get a ticket, or is there any spare spaces for that breakfast tomorrow?
Neil, we have full capacity. We're sold out, unfortunately.
Yep.
So while John Ruddock's putting his bill forward, we'll be praying for him.
Okay. Well, God's blessing and favour on that breakfast. Hey, Greg Bondar, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.